Anacostia, which is just a few blocks from Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., has been called one of the worst neighborhoods in America. It is polluted by poverty, drugs, and violent crime. The murder rate there for African American men is so high that some see themselves as an endangered species. It is cut off from the rest of Washington by the Anacostia River, which is as polluted as the neighborhood. Saving both the river and the neighborhood is the goal of a group that teaches young people about the environment and uses that experience in an effort to change the neighborhood and their lives. This is not the picture postcard view of the capital that tourists see. This is Anacostia, a neighborhood where unemployment is epidemic and 38% of its residents live below the poverty line. Police say so far this year, over half the murders in Washington were committed here, earning Anacostia a reputation as one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in America.
Anacostia has always been a haven for the poorest people. This is where they dump their trash and dump the people who I guess the city didn't want to see.
David Smith was born and raised in Anacostia.
When you were growing up here, did you see a lot of hopelessness among kids you grew up with?
Absolutely. It was a statistic that we were told in elementary school. I'll never forget, in the 3rd grade, we had a special person come in to tell us about the statistic that if you were a black man growing up in Washington, D.C., you had a 1 in 21 chance of making it out of D.C. alive before you were 18.
That's still the perception because most of those homicides are young African-American men.
We're not that far, actually, from the Capitol, are we?
We're about 3 blocks. 3 blocks from the Capitol.
But in reality,
it's like 10 miles, maybe 10 states.
That reality is something Smith is trying to change by recruiting young people from Anacostia to join the last thing most of them ever considered, an environmental program. He showed us a work site where they were building a river walk.
Jerome, can you make sure you cut up?
Smith is the field director of the Earth Conservation Corps, the ECC, a local environmental organization that puts young people to work cleaning up their neighborhood and their lives.
When I first got here, I didn't have any prospects. I just was at home with my kids collecting welfare.
LaShante Moore joined the ECC when she was 20 years old and a single mother living in a homeless shelter. She says joining seemed like a good opportunity.
The only job that I think I could get was like working at McDonald's or something. And so, you know, I figured, why not do something where I can further my education and get money to go to school instead of just flipping burgers all day.
Darius Phillips had already been shot 4 times when LaShante Moore told him about the ECC. His violent behavior had earned him a nickname, the Big Hurt.
How did you get to be the Big Hurt?
I was Superman out on the street. If somebody needed protection, then they would call me. Or if I needed to get my money, I was going to get it because my name carries so much weight.
This is the man who started the Earth Conservation Corps, Bob Nixon, Hollywood producer and environmentalist who came to Washington 13 years ago to do a TV special and ended up staying.
I came here because I thought, point out the problem and the cavalry would arrive and I'd go back to making feature films. I'm still waiting for the cavalry.
Nixon had been looking for a place to start an environmental project and found it along the Anacostia River.
I was reading the New York Times and I saw a picture of a creek in the Anacostia River. It was just choked with tires and it was a national disaster. This creek, that was like, okay, I'm calling those guys and we're going to take some of those kids that live near that creek and put them to work.
The money to get the ECC up and running came out of Nixon's pocket and from a $50,000 grant from the Coors Foundation. From the beginning, there has been an emphasis on restoring the river, one of the dirtiest in America. Much of the pollution comes from sewage that flushes into the Anacostia after a heavy rain.
So every time it rains, half an inch, it's about 70 plus times a year, raw sewage comes boiling out of this overflow.
According to the Environmental Protection Agency, 2 billion gallons of raw sewage is dumped into the Anacostia every year.
If you could say in a nutshell what the agenda of the Earth Conservation Corps is, what would you say?
To give young men and women from Anacostia the chance to reclaim their community and their own lives.
Each year, the ECC gives that chance to 20 young people, as long as they make a commitment to do 1,700 hours of environmental work over a year. They're paid just under $400 every 2 weeks. That's less than $5 an hour and below the minimum wage.
Push.
If they fulfill their commitment, they receive a $5,000 scholarship.
You think this is hot? This ain't nothing.
But Smith says the ECC is not about the money. It's about teamwork, responsibility, and change.
Y'all getting soft on me, and I will not have a crew of corps members that are not better than the crew that comes before them. I will not tolerate mediocrity. It's not about the work, y'all. It's about the success. It's about the learning experience. It's about changing your communities. The work is just something we got to do. Get used to it. It's not hot.
Do you think that you can change people here?
Absolutely not. I can't change anybody. But what I can do is I can provide an opportunity for those that seek change.
Rodney, how did you come to Earth Conservation Corps? What did you do before you came here?
Sold drugs.
Rodney Stotts was one of the first members of the ECC.
How much money did you make selling drugs, say in an average week?
Maybe around $15,000
$15,000 a week.
on a good week.
And in a week here, how much did you make?
$100. $100.
It's a big difference. Huh?
Tremendous difference.
Why'd you do it?
You get tired of walking out the door and you have to keep a gun with you. When you get in the car, you can't just sit down, put your seatbelt on, let your car warm up. You got to keep looking around and keep the pistol on your lap. I mean, you can't enjoy life. You can't feel proud about anything that you have because it was ill-gotten gains.
Stotts took part in the ECC's first project, removing nearly 5,000 tires that had been dumped into this creek. What proved more challenging was getting people from violent backgrounds to work together.
In the beginning, we had Corps members bringing guns to work to kill each other because everybody's attitudes clashed so much. It was a new experience for everybody.
This isn't easy, and it's not, this is sort of life and death stuff. Better to be hard on them and hope they make it. I mean, we're not like holding hands here. We're trying to give them the tools to survive. You know how to set up a tripod?
Since the beginning, they have filmed or videotaped almost all of their projects.
Hold up.
This was in 1994 when the ECC began one of its most ambitious undertakings.
Okay, hold it there,
Returning the bald eagle to the nation's capital after an absence of 50 years.
Bald eagles in D.C. This is where it's at. This is where it's happening.
It took a lot of convincing of the Fish and Wildlife Service to let us do that. It's hard to get the permits to you're going to do what, where? And to their credit, they did let us do it.
With the Fish and Wildlife Service's participation, the ECC built the young eagles a nest, fed them fish with the rope and pulley, and monitored their activities for months.
All right.
Finally, the day arrived to see if those eagles could fly.
Ready?
Whoa, man, she's so pretty.
I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky.
Between 1994 and 98, 16 eagles were released.
Spread my wings and fly away.
Some were named for Corps members who had been killed, victims of violent crime. Brenda Richardson is a social worker with the ECC.
Can you tell me about the first Corps member who was killed?
That's very painful.
After all these years?
It was Monique. And she really didn't deserve that.
You can see all the trash on the streets and wouldn't think that they was in the stream or creeks or whatever.
Monique Johnson from that first group of recruits was murdered 3 months after she started.
I watched this young woman blossom into this beautiful butterfly, and you just don't forget that. You really don't forget that.
In 1996, Gerald Hewlett was stabbed to death over $10. A month later, Benny Jones was beaten to death with a lead pipe. And that was just the beginning.
Since this organization was started, how many members have been killed?
9.
And you only have 20 a year.
Yes. We had no idea that this kind of thing would happen to us.
How do you explain all these killings?
We have the wonderful opportunity to educate these kids, to watch them turn into these wonderful human beings, but the one thing we cannot protect them from is their own neighborhoods. They find something here, and then before they even have a chance to run with it, they get gunned down.
That's what happened to 19-year-old Diamond Teague, the ECC's poster boy, a high school honors graduate with great expectations. He was shot to death on his front porch.
But this kid actually preached sermons in church. Just got back from Korea, won a silver medal with his basketball team, had $15,000 in scholarship money, enrolled at UDC. Diamond was the saint. He was the only one probably in that entire crew that was squeaky clean.
The morning after his murder, Teague's death barely rated a mention in the local newspaper.
Tell me how they make you feel and what y'all think we should do at this point.
We just decided, okay, since they don't want to write about it, we're going to do it.
Right.
It don't even matter.
Right.
So our media arts
You're going to
team,
do what?
we're going to make sure that he won't be forgotten out here or be brushed under the rug as just another drug dealer or robber killer who paid his dues, got killed. We didn't want it to end up like that, so our media arts team took on the task of telling his story.
His story is told in their documentary called Endangered Species.
What's the message they want to get out with this film?
The message, I believe, is you have no idea what the hell's going on right here in our nation's capital.
Please raise your right hand.
The Earth Conservation Corps knows they can't change the world, but they feel they can help to change one river, one neighborhood, and a handful of people. Many of those who complete the program, like LaShante, who graduated and got a job, say the ECC changed them.
I love the fact that I'm a professional woman. I love the fact that I don't have to wait on a welfare check on the first of the month. I like that feeling. I never want to lose that feeling. And being here put me in this place. Before I got here, it was welfare. Now that I'm finished, it's working girl. Yes, thank you. So I'm very happy.